welcome back to GTR 24H, and this is the third round of the EEWC. It's the 12 hours of Sebring, and we are into hour number 8. I'm looking forward to getting into yet another hour's worth of racing. In about an hour's time, Chris will be taking over from me for his 2-hour stint on his own. So you've got us two for the rest of the night. I do apologise, but stick with us, we'll give you all the action. Nello Pastorino will watch you on here as we get to the top of another hour. I suppose we should have a little bit of a run through of how it stands across all 4 classes. Hopefully we can do that. So here's how it looks then in the hypercars. At the moment then, number 18 Burst eSports Simplexity leading the way. Dawid Mroczek in the car at the moment. SEM9 Axle in second place in the number 11 car. Josh Purwien in the car at the moment. Then it's the 17 Unison Racing car. Dennis Eschenko in the number 17. Fourth place, the 64 Moradness eStars car. Nello Pastorino is behind the wheel. 33 Team Adrenaline are in fifth place. Arturus Messitis at the wheel. And Team Viductum, the number 1 car, 6th in class. But they are currently in the pit lane and haven't moved for quite some time. In LMP2, it's SEM9 Axle leading the way. Ar Muhammad Aleef at the wheel. Behind them, it's the number 15 Deuces Motorsports Club car. Darius Andrei at the wheel of the 15 machine. Then it's the 164 Liam Rance Satellite Racing. Fourth place, Rasmus Andreasen in the number 94 Burst eSports Scooter Sunglasses. And fifth place, we haven't seen them in a while, Team Iris, the number 77. Benza Horvat was at the last time behind the wheel, but we have not seen them in 206 laps. Then moving on to GTE. We saw a great battle earlier on. And we did speak to this driver who's currently in the car in Deuces Motorsport Club. Wojtek Bolesny is leading in the 74. SEM Racing Lab, the number 45 in second place with the number 27 Alvaro Incausti rounding off the top 3 of the MCM Motorsport car. Fourth place, the 166 ID Simsport, Marcus Stair is at the wheel. The 264 Satellite Racing car, Tom Kapusta, rounds off the top 5. Sixth place, the 717 Max Abunovic, but that's currently in the pit lane at the moment. We did see some issues with it. Also not running at the moment, the 54 and the 53 Musto Pescara in those orders. And then the 67 Mugen Sim Racing car. As you can see, the gap is how long since we've seen them? Roughly 54 laps for Björn Kolila and 158 and 191 laps for the 53 and the 67 respectively. And finally, last but not least, GT3. CKR in the number 13 lead the way. Pedro Delgado at the wheel. Second place, the 404 Glam Racing car. Henry Koya at the wheel of the 404. Then it's Daniel Krasnay in the 585 Aztec Sim Sports by Volante Racing, rounding off the podium positions. In fourth place, the 188 Telefoninigan, the Jan Berdsgaard is at the wheel of the car. And fifth place, the B32 Racing car. Unfortunately, we don't know who's in that one. And last of the runners in GT3, sixth place, the treble 7 of Michael Ciccolini. Christopher Kianek we have not seen in the 82 Mugen Sim Racing. We haven't seen Mugen Sim Racing at all for 170 laps. Both cars, as it stands, are out of this race. And there is the 188 Telefoninigan Jan Berdsgaard making his way through in towards turn 1. And fourth place so far, the 3-driver team, Gert Nielsen, Jan Berdsgaard Jensen and Thomas Rengard Madsen. And again, Danish is up there with my Portuguese. Absolutely terrible. But it's Berdsgaard, fourth place at the moment, at the wheel of the BMW. And, well, we were speaking to Gert Nielsen earlier on in the race. In fact, towards the start of the race, within the first 2 hours. And they were sort of saying how they and Glam Racing had struggled off the start, so too Gadget Huset. But they were sort of telling us, or Gert was telling us, that they're doing this for fun. So wherever they finish, they're pretty happy with, as long as they make it to the finishes. And that's a good team spirit about it. So Telefoninigan, fourth place so far. A lap behind Aztec Sim Sports by Volante, but for the most part, they've kept their heads down, they've kept out of trouble for the most part, and find themselves fourth place in class. Taking a look at the weather radar, which, it's been very, very predictably, what I'm calling this the Kieran curse, because whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, this is what the weather radar is showing us. Now you see those green patches are light rain, the blue patches are sort of heavier rain, then you've got the pinks and the reds being the storms. Well, there seems to be some sort of vacuum around Sebring at the moment, and it's keeping all the rain away. Now, if you've got a slightly more balanced setup, like Richie Hoyer and his team have in the Burst eSports Simplexity car, you might be cursing your luck just a little bit because it hasn't quite worked just yet. But it's interesting. Again, we've said it before, we'll say it again. Just as much as we say respect the bumps, this is Florida. These rain pockets can just appear out of nowhere and cause havoc wherever they come. So we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. But in the meantime, it's dry. That's all we can say. That's all I will say at the moment. Hopefully you are enjoying the coverage wherever you are watching, and hopefully your favourite team is doing well. Let us know who your favourite team is as well, either in the YouTube chat, and make sure you give your teams plenty of support on Twitter, #GTR24H. So Dawid Mroczek in the Burst eSports Simplexity car leading the way. There's Nello Pastorino, who's 4th place in the Moradness eStars car. Under the night sky at the moment, 27 degrees is the air temperature right now. Track temperature has stayed roughly the same since I took over from a Mr. Chris Buxton about an hour and a bit ago. But in that hour and a bit, we've dropped 4 degrees in air temperature. So it's hard to see the track temperature staying at 25 degrees for much longer. I'm expecting it to fall away in temperature within the next few minutes, or possibly next sort of by the end of my stint here. You should have a track temperature that's starting to fall. Then again, this is me predicting that, and if there's a Kieran curse lurking, no, track apparently is completely dry. Completely dry after that little bit of a shower 40 minutes ago. Oh, Nello Pastorino's got into the back of the 777. Pastorino into the back of the 777, coming in towards turn 2. And I don't know whether that was just a lapse in concentration, a bit of miscommunication. It's hard to tell, but turn 1 seemed to go okay. And then towards turn 2, perhaps a bit of a lock-up from Pastorino. That's all I can really think of, because those front brakes were pretty much on fire when that happened. They were running that hot. So I think we were trying to load a replay, but the replay on that time is just not playing ball. Jan Bredsgaard, 4th place right now in that Teleforeinigen car. And now, is that 19 seconds behind Asatec? Is that right? Am I reading that right? Let's have a quick check on my timing screens. Yes, they're about 20. Oh, they're 20 seconds behind Max Brinovic, who has rejoined the race. So the 717 is back on track lapping, and that's the thing now, because we don't know how far Brinovic is behind Krajna in the 585 Azatec, so it's a little bit out of sorts at the moment. But once Brinovic completes this lap, the timing or the gaps there should come back to normal, because at the moment it's just a gap of 0, which doesn't really help anybody there, not particularly. In the meantime, we're watching one of the SEM9 cars. It's the hypercar entry. Currently lapping out there. The number 11, currently behind the wheel, Nakib Aslan, who's now making his way up towards the final corner. There is Nello Pastorino, who's close in and try and get these gaps down. He's now into 3rd place, and it's about 7.5 seconds back from Dennis Eschenko. So he'll be looking to try and push on and close that gap down as much as he possibly can. Do that as well down the inside of the LMP2 SEM9 Axle car. He does get past. Onwards and upwards for Nello Pastorino as he looks to try and close in on the Unison car ahead with number 17. We did see a great battle between Moradness and Burst eSports Simplexity early on in the race. A bit apart now, about a lap and a bit apart at the moment, but a lap and a bit is pretty much nothing when it comes to endurance racing. It doesn't mean anything. You know, a slight problem is going to be a lap and a half, 2 laps. I mean, we've seen the 717 Unison Racing car And, I see. Someone giving me a poke. It's Tom Aldermere, who wants to have a chat. I suppose we can have a chat with Tom Aldermere. Go on then. Go on then. He is in the green room. He's very it's because he poked me, production, that's why. Poked me to say, hello, I'm here. Let's have a chat with him then. He poked me. He's eager to have a chat. Tom Aldermere. Tom, how are you this evening?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. How are you? How's your team getting on?
Excellent. Not our best race this season, to be honest. I don't know, we're trying our best, but it seems, apart from some issues, that we're missing some pace today. I guess in the preparations we were hoping for a bit more rain. That actually happened, and that's costing us a bit.
Yeah, and speaking of that rain, is this a case where you've set up for the rain that hasn't come, or is this a case of where you're just waiting on that rain to shake up the order a little bit?
A bit of both, I guess. So basically, setup-wise, we went for a bit of a higher downforce car, so that if the rain came, we would be better equipped. And basically our lap times seemed okay in practice, but they seem to be a bit down in pace now. So if it were to rain, we were hoping for a setup advantage, and at this point we need the rain to shake things up a bit, so we have a good chance to get back onto the podium.
Yeah, I think you'll be cursing me, Tom, because every circuit I come to, when it comes to EEWC, the rain just seems to stay away. There just seems to be some sort of vacuum around the track. I've been telling all these drivers, so maybe I'm the problem, Tom. Maybe blame it on me, Tom. It's all right. Don't worry about it. But I mean, other than that, I mean, it's obviously we've seen a couple of incidents here and there, a couple of penalties been handing out. But what's the feeling down at your camp at the moment?
Well, yeah, like we're just doing our best, trying to keep it clean, and yeah. I guess we need some luck to really get back into it, but we still have a little over half a race left, so all we can do is just keep pushing and get it done.
And Tom, do you wear those sunglasses when you're driving? Please say yes.
So they are the Gooder sunglasses. Oh, I think it's just out of shot, so
makes sense now. I'm putting two and two together now, Tom. Very nice, very nice.
So yeah, I tried it in practice, but well, these are sunglasses, so it gets a bit too dark. So I thought, well, this might cost me a bit of performance, and while we're happy with the partnership, I'd rather be fast on track.
Pretty good answer. One more question for you then, Tom. Which is your favourite guitar behind you?
Sorry, can you repeat it?
Of course I can. Which is your favourite guitar behind you?
Oh, that's a difficult one. They all have a bit of a story. So, you know, there's the first guitar, so that's always special, and then the one I played the most, and then there's another guitar that I bought with my first paycheck, so difficult to choose.
Choose all three. There you go. There's your answer.
All right, I'll go with that.
It's the cop-out answer, but it's the cop-out answer I'm familiar with, Tom. Don't worry about it. Well, Tom, thank you so much for having a chat to us. We'll see if that rain arrives. If it does, we'll be looking towards the Burst eSports Gooder sunglasses machine. Thank you so much for talking to us, Tom.
All right, thanks.
Tom Aldermere, they're part of the Burst eSports, but part of the Gooder sunglasses team this time around. They were hoping for a little bit more rain than they have seen so far. I saw some at the top of the last hour, but haven't really seen any since. And as we were talking about, the vacuum that exists apparently around the circuit, it's very convenient, but hey-ho, it is what it is. The rain radar is still very much trying to say there is rain in the area, and you know, this is Florida. It's a broken record time. It's Florida. These little bit of weather fronts can just appear out of nowhere and completely catch you unawares. And Michi Hoyer was talking to me quite a while ago, saying they expect rain in 2.5 hours. Well, this is the sort of time period they were expecting this rain to hit, and it hasn't yet. And they will be hoping that they both Burst cars will have a little bit of rain, because it seems to be a little bit of they've compromised a little bit on setup to prepare for the rain so that they're quick through there, but it hasn't come yet. Still 4 hours 40 on the clock, so still time to shake things up. At the moment then, we're watching Mroczek as there goes Nello Pastorino in the Moradness eStars car, flying through, second place at the moment in hypercars. Mroczek in the Telefoinigan, number 188, fourth place right now. He can do from this position. But as I said before, the track is bone dry. Now that's a problem again for Alexander Zakharov, who's just gone into the car at Unison Racing. It's back into the pits and actually in the garage about 30 seconds ago. So not good news. They were running second about 15 minutes ago, and they had that incident with one of the burst cars there, and they've had problems ever since, which is a real shame. Just looked like there's some sort of disconnection, not in sense of internet, but in sense of the actual rig. It kept going straight, which is never what you want. Yellow flags briefly out in Sector 2 before they were, just as soon as they were deployed, they were quickly withdrawn. So that to me seems like it's going to be maybe a car just getting out of the way, or just a car running slightly too wide to trigger those yellow flags. Looking at battles up and down the order, we do have, who's our closest battle out there? It probably is the battle for fourth place in GTE at the moment, which is roughly 6.5 seconds. It's the battle between ID Sim Sport and the 264 Satellite Racing. There's Tom Kapusta, who's about 6.5 seconds back from ID Sim Sport. This is probably your closest battle on the track at the moment, being at 6.5 seconds. See how it plays out there. There is also actually, it's for different classes, but it is for overall position. It is the battle for 8th overall, Rasmus Andreasen in that Burst eSports Good Sunglasses car, and the Team Adrenaline Hypercar, Arturas Masaitis. But that might be a short-lived battle because they are due into the pit lane this lap, I believe, so might be short-lived there. But Arturas in that motion rig, I wonder if we can get that motion rig up there, because it's amazing, this thing. I'm totally in awe of it, and the jealousy is on every fibre of my being. Is just so jealous of Arturas at the moment that he has that set up. But jealousy quickly fades if there's a crash, or if the gate takes a curb, too much curb, bit of contact. Then my jealousy just doesn't, it no longer exists. It's fine, I'm fine. But Arturas here will be making his way into the pit lane this time around, and being this way through in towards the final corner. Does he come into the pit lane? Looks like he's staying tight. Yes, he is into the pits. From 5th place in Hypercar. We haven't seen Viducton car since their last off. I don't know whether they're calling it a day at this point, which would be a shame because we'd only have 21 cars running around the circuit at the moment. So as far as we know then, we're going to count that as the 6th retirement of the race. Our first, well, our only retirement in hypercars at the moment in Team Viducton. Project then, first eSports Simplexity car, leading the way in hypercars. Moradness eStars in 2nd place, and then the SEM9 Axle Naki Vaslan at the wheel, currently in 3rd place. In LMP2s, the top 3, SEM9 Axle, Ar Muhammad Aleef leading the way ahead of the number 15 Deuces Motorsports Club, Darius Andrei at the wheel, and Satellite Racing, the 164, about 98 seconds back from 2nd place. Then top 3 of GTE, we have Wojtek Palewski in the 74 Deuces Motorsports, 45 DRS Sim Racing Lab, and 3rd place MCM Motorsport, Alvaro Kausti behind the wheel. GT3 is CKR leading the way in the number 13 car, the 404 Glam Racing, Enricoya is at the wheel there. That's second place. And then Daniel Krasnai in the 585 Aztec Sim Sports by Volante Racing rounds off the top three in GT3. There is Ar Muhammad Aleef. And the gap between himself and Deuces Motorsport Club is 13 seconds at the moment, but having a look at last lap times. Oh, yellow flag, Sebastian Deville on Team Adrenaline, briefly bringing the yellow flag out in Sector 1, but that looks like it's all cleared up again, so maybe a slight mistake from Deville, or he was slightly off track, whatever the case may be, but it looks like he's back onto it once again. Now running as the final running hypercar at the moment, Sebastian Deville in Team Adrenaline, as they're now approaching a couple of cars further up the order, a GT3 and a GTE. One of them is the satellite racing car, and the other is the, I believe that's the 585, it is Aztec Sim Sports car, in its way through. Three different classes across the picture there, and they all make it look really easy to find their way through. It's never that easy, I guarantee you that, it is never that easy. Make it look easier. We have Blue Banana Cake in our YouTube chat saying it's Cara in the B32 car. This and next stint, Rasmus drove the two before that. Well, thank you very much, Blue Banana Cake. We will bear that in mind. So that's going to be Cara in the car. We did see our very own Alex Goldschmidt in the qualifying. Was it the qualifying chat yesterday? So you'll never guess what Cara's had to drink recently. And very much a lot of drink. But I don't think that was a fair reflection on Cara there. Not at all. So that would be Cara on the Hervgaard, currently in that machine. Putting in the laps then. So this and next stint will be Cara. Go through the final portion of the lap, making his way up towards your long curve. Back onto the Ullman Straight. Yeah, when I remember back in Matsusaka, part of our sort of pre-season build-up, Yusuf and I. Well, to be fair, Alex and Yusuf also went through, and they really ripped teams apart. I was nowhere near that nasty, but the B32 car in GT3, I really am a fan. I'm a sucker for anything orange and black livery. That's the key to winning my heart, and the B32 car has that in abundance. It looks great out there. Now we're now through in towards turn 2. Yeah, I mean, I actually got the story wrong of the bribery of the lemon cake, as I was told by Alex Goldschmidt, because it was Alex who was bribed with the cake, not Yusuf. Yusuf was bribed with the promise of cake. I got that wrong. I'd like to clear that up now, clear the name. And I do apologise to Yusuf. Yusuf, if you are watching along, hope everything's okay, and hope to see you back soon. B32 Racing then, still pounding the laps out then towards Birkenturd, now towards the Fangio chicane. GT3 slightly spread out, but Aztec are starting to close in to Glam Racing. About 7 seconds is the gap. Having a look at the gaps and last laps, our poet. I'll make those words rhyme somehow. Have a look at the Glam Racing, last lap 2:02.5, Aztec last lap 2:01.7. So that's nearly 8 tenths out of that gap then. So watch out for that battle then for second in class. My apologies, second in class for Henri Koya and Daniel Krasnay. Gap is starting to fall tremendously. All into Krasnay's favour. We're watching Hervgaard in the B32 machine. This way through the final corner, Sunset Bend. And just so bumpy through there. On towards the start-finish straight. Complete another lap of this circuit. Well, under the night sky, we are very much approaching our mark of the mark had there. But whilst Daniel Krajna is trying to close in on the 404 Glam Racing, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll see how this GT3 battle is shaping up. Don't go anywhere.
The 2022 Endurance E-Racing World Championship brought to you in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriots, Aztec Sim Sports, Global Flix, Motorvision.tv, Sten Goldman, ESTV and Film Vault Limited.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
Just think about the fun things you do online. Diving into movies you love. Shopping. Enjoying free Wi-Fi with your morning coffee. Wait, who's that guy? Meet the Digital Snooper. It can be your internet service provider peeking at what you do online, or a cyber criminal on a mission to snitch your credit card info, or a hacker at the next table trying to steal your sensitive data. Uh-oh. But don't worry. NordVPN keeps all these snoopers away. It makes your internet activity private, protects you from accessing dangerous websites, and lets you enjoy your favorite content securely, even while away from home. The best part? It's just a click. Yep, internet security is that easy.
You can get NordVPN today at a 60% discount by visiting gtr24h.org/VPN.
Welcome back then, and we rejoin with Daniel Krajna dropping that gap to about 5.7 seconds then. That's Sim Sports trying to close in on the 404 Glam Racing car. And I heard production tell me that there was a little bit of the car that ran into trouble. So here's that car running into trouble. So we're watching Nello Pastorino then coming through Sunset Bend. What happened to Pastorino? The back end. Whoa, that was close. The CKR car had left a rear wing there as well. So that kind of looked like Pastorino was reacting there to the CKR car. Now, is that the CKR car that lost the rear wing there? Yes, it is. Look, here it is. That's the CKR car as well involved in that. So Pedro Delgado currently into the pits. Without a rear wing whatsoever. I'll have to come back and get that fixed. Wow. all sorts of crazy happening now, because that's the GT3 leaders in CKR. And so that means then that Ar Muhammad in Glam Racing is going to take over the lead of this race. And that's going to put the 585 Aztec Sim Sport car we're watching on up into second place. And so what we were watching on for a battle closing in, or a battle for second place, is going to actually turn into the battle for the lead of GT3. And the gap between them, just around 5 seconds at the moment. It's just a tad over 5 seconds at the moment. 5.1 as it stands. But yeah, Ar Muhammad into the lead of this race in the Glam Racing car, looking to notch up their first win of the season. Of course, still just under 4.5 hours left of this race to run. And yeah, Pedro Delgado, how far is he? He's still in the pit lane, or still in the stop at the moment, and might be there for some time, because the rear wing came off that car. So that's a lengthy repair they have to go through there in order to get that car back up to working order, to get the rear wing on and then send it away. But that's not good at all. Let's have a look at a replay. So this is Pedro Delgado, the GT3 car, that's found itself into a bit of a spin. Now I see it's getting very close to the grass there. That's not the issue. Running now in towards Sunset Bend. Whoa, the car snapped on him. Oh, the car snapped on him there, going through the bumps. He then tries to rejoin. Pastorino has to brake to avoid him. He might. Yeah, and then... right, okay, so that seems to me Pedro Delgado didn't realise he didn't have a rear wing. That sort of reminds me... that kind of reminds me of Ralph Furman, I think it was, back in the early 2000s. His rear wing failed. He had absolutely no idea, and then went to turn into a corner, and yeah, you see there, I think he's starting to realise there's something wrong with the car now, because he might not have that view. He might think everything's okay, but he now makes his way through turn 2. Hopefully he'll have realised by now that he's got much less rear downforce than he had. The car's such a handful to keep a handle of. And then we head our way through the long right-hander. Oh, there it goes, and catching a SEM9 Racing car, and then, well, just tips it back the right way as well. That was a lot to unpack there, but it looked like Pedro Delgado was losing the back end. The SEM9 Axle car got caught up in it, and then Pedro Delgado just accidentally sort of tipping that SEM9 Axle car back the right way. Sorry to bother you. Here you go, back again. And production is still running this replay, so that means there was still even more that happened. There's more that happened here. And Pedro here, surely he knows at this point there's no rear wing on the car. Starting to brake now in towards the right hand here, gets onto the curve. So this is coming through in towards Collier curve now. Again, you're coming towards a very high speed part of the circuit, heading in towards Tower Turn. And another car behind. Whoa, that was close. That was close. I'm just hearing the 188 is into the pits. Telefonigan has disconnected, so they're going to have to come back in as soon as possible. Pedro Delgado. Oh, that's so close. I mean, he has to go a full lap without a rear wing, and having to go through so many laps with the rear wing intact, everything working perfectly. Suddenly you don't have that rear downforce, and the car is a totally different beast without the rear wing on. It's absolutely unstable. He does realise at this point to move to the right hand side, and we'll just watch this replay as following through Sunset Bend to see what happened here through the final corner. And he stays tight to the inside. And the back end goes again. Yeah, with no rear wing. Does he keep it out of the wall this time? Yes, he does. Just about. But that would have been the lap from hell for Pedro Delgado. But he finally made it back to the pits. And I'm sure he breathed a sigh of relief. Since then, he has rejoined back to the circuit. He is in third place with CKR. But yeah, I can't imagine. That would have been a lap from hell for Pedro Delgado. The most important thing is, though, he made it back to the pit. The car is fixed. It's got a rear wing on, and he's back underway again. The 188 Telefoinigan car did briefly disconnect. It has rejoined. It's rejoined onto the track, and we'll now try and put in the laps once again. And Nikib Aslan as well up into second place. SEM9 Axle trying to negotiate his way through the field. Hopefully you are enjoying the action so far, and there is absolutely more to come. Now, looked at that weather radar again. I'm captivated by this weather radar. I think this is one of the closest weather radars we've come to having rain close to the circuit, towards the southeast of the circuit. You see in the bottom left-hand corner, there are patches of rain approaching the circuit from the southeast. It's probably the closest we've come to just that little bit of rain. Dawid Mroczek then on the Burst eSports Simplexity car, leading the way by just under 2 minutes. Darius Andrei leading the LMP2 class at the moment for Deuces Motorsport Club. The GTE, the leader at the moment, is Wojta Polesny in the other Deuces Motorsports entry. The number 74, and leading GT3 is Ar Muhammad Aleef in the 404 Glam racing car. There's Liam Rance then in the 164 satellite racing machine, trying to close in on Inigo Anton. Close in the game. Approaching just another hour complete here. We have 4 hours and 20 minutes on the clock. The air temperature's actually gone up to 30 degrees again. Track temperature is still at 25 degrees, but yeah, just that weather radar. Keeping an eye on that one. It's the final 2 frames that's the forecast. So we'll get 2 frames, then it stops, and then we'll go back in time. There, you can see, that's the forecast. That rain is coming from the southeast. Whether it hits the circuit or not is a completely different question, but the rain is coming from the southeast. Ar Muhammad then is currently leading the GT3 class with Glam Racing, and they have Daniel Krasnai looking on and trying to close this gap as well. Here we'll have a bit of radio, see if they're chatting to each other at all. Go on in the background. I do apologise if I do speak over them. At the moment, Daniel Krasnai is trying to close in on this gap. Not the car behind, it's the car behind that, so they are on the same straight, they're sharing that same straight. So we're now to the final corner, Sunset Bend, back onto the start-finish straight. We start yet another lap here at Sebring. Well, I have to say, leaders in DPI have just broken through 250 laps. They've completed 251 so far here in Sebring.
I think they're coming in now.
That's the Burst eSports Simplexity car. LMP2. So, Ar thinks that the 585 will hit this lap. Is that going to be right? Well, yes, apparently so. He's into the pits. So he got that absolutely spot on. Yellow flags in Sector 1, which have been cleared. Ar Muhammad, yeah, this is what I was talking about. I've said before how sim racers have to be the most complete drivers. They have to be thinking on their feet with strategy. They have all that data in front of them as well in terms of gaps. So they have to think on their feet as well. And that's clear from Ar Muhammad. He's clearly thinking about the car behind and the team behind in order to see what they can do. But the Audi so far doing really well. I think 404 Glam Racing could do with a result like this. Have had a tough start to the season, but getting a race win here would certainly change things around very, very slightly. DPI is still being led by Dawid Mroczek, 107 seconds at the moment. But that battle we were building up for GT3, Got a ruin with that pit stop, really, but what can you do? It is what it is. LMP2, just have a look at gaps within each car. Liam Rance is now within 5 seconds of Robert Powell. So that might be one to keep an eye on. Last lap from Satellite Racing 1:47.7. Deuces last lap 1:55. Now, that might be that they just came into the pit stops and their pit boxes before the start-finish line. So that's probably why they've got a 1:55. It looks a little odd, but that would be why. They're here about 75 seconds ahead of Acertec, but as we heard from Henrik, he predicted right that the team behind were going to pit in very soon. In fact, pretty much as he said it, the team behind pitted in. Different race it could have been for CKR. Still not out of the equation, but that rear wing flying off the car from Pedro Delgado after making contact with the wall at Sunset Bend. I might look back at that with a bit of regret, but it is what it is, and Pedro had to go through a real lap of hell in order to get that car back to the pit lane so that they could get the car repaired and back out there again. But in the meantime, he's out there. There's the Moradness eStars car just trying to make its way through the traffic. Try and find a little gap out there. Sector 3 is on the yellow flags. That's quickly cleared. Again, maybe just a driver running a little bit too deep or just giving way to cars behind. That is the, I believe that's the Unison car making its way through now. Be followed shortly behind by the Burst eSports car. That's the Good Sunglasses entrant towards the final corner, and there is the Unison Racing car, Peter Vagapov behind the wheel and looking to try and close in on Moradness eStars. Ahead, 2.3 seconds is the gap as they cross the line in towards turn 1. Unison Racing, we'll see, having a bit of a chat then, and won't be in English, so if there's any translators out there, that's not what they're chatting about. But of course, Vagapov just trying to close in on Nello Pastorino. I'm sure the words will be, "You're closing, and you're closing fast" on Nello Pastorino. Coming out and onto Fangio chicane, on towards Cunningham corner. Trying to close that gap even further for Peter Vagapov. There is the number 60. I will get this number right. 64. Thank you, correction. I've only been talking about them for the last 8 hours, but yes, the number 64 trying to break away at the moment, back for third place, developing nicely into our hands. And now making their way now through in towards Le Mans, now on towards the Ullman Straight. And yes, there you can see Peter Vagapov is closing up towards the final corner. We will go. And seeing what Vagapov can do round the final corner. He's within a second now. As SEM9 Axle into the pits, there goes Naki Baslan. Now he'll rejoin behind this battle, but he'll be on fresh tyres, maybe a heavier car. As Vagapov, look at this now, putting on the pressure on Nello Pastorino through turn 1. Onwards they go towards turn 2. No way through there. The CKR car is planted there as we watch on and see how Pastorino will try and defend this one. He's got to dispatch of the GT3 car first, which he does, but that's going to open him up now to Peter Vagapov right into the slipstream. Where will the Unison car go? He'll go down the inside, late on the brakes in towards the hairpin turn, but he runs too deep, and Nello Pastorino finds his way back through Vagapov tried down the inside, left the braking slightly too late, overrun the corner, and Nello Pastorino was able to take that position back. But Vagapov right now is just trying to hound and harry the car ahead of Nello Pastorino. Pastorino not phased in towards the hairpin there. Hoyer, meanwhile, has lost a position to Daniel Krasnai, the 585 Aztec Sim Sports by Volante. Now, Hoyer has come back into the pits, and Krasnai and et al. Have done the undercut. They've got themselves back ahead under those pit stops there. So, all starting to come alive now. So, great call from Aztec to bring the car in a lap or two earlier. And Hoyer now is down to second place. And making their way now through in towards the final corner. Just wondering here, Vagapov is still hounding the back of Nello Pastorino, but he's due in for a pit stop. And actually, Hoyer is coming back into the pits. So he hadn't stopped. Well, I'm going to have to get my calculator out and work out how on earth that's possible. But Liam Rance now, we're watching on the number 164 Satellite Racing. And we're riding on board then. Is this Daniel Krasnai we're watching on here? It's Henrik Hoyer we're watching on. So this is him leaving the pit lane, coming out of turn 1. And he's trying to give way to cars on the left. Then making his way out towards turn 2. You see the Azatec car goes down the inside, swoops down the inside, and takes it. And, well, it didn't look like he put up much of a fight there. Now, they have since been back to the pits, not long after that. I wonder if there was a problem in the pit lane for Glam Racing there, because they had to come back into the pit lane, and they're now 20 seconds back. So, yeah, I'm trying to work that one out at the moment, but in the meantime, we'll focus then on that battle. Peter Vagapov, meanwhile, did come into the pit lane, so no more battle against Nello Pastorino, but it was a great short-lived battle whilst we had it. And, well, it's been fantastic so far under the night sky here at Sebring. Manrikoya 20.8 back now from Azatec Sim Sports and Daniel Krasnai, with Pedro Delgado in third place, 332 Racing fourth, ESR Gadget Husum in fifth, Colorful Unigan in sixth, and Nugan Sim Racing rounding off the 7 teams in GT3 that are still running in this race. Well, we're now not quite sure what happened during those pit stops, but what we do know is that they have rejoined nearly 21 seconds behind after that tirade, and a bit of team radio in the... So obviously got the team radio in the background as well, as they try and figure out a way back, to find their way back past. They've got 20 seconds up the road at the moment.
Maybe Kuba and Lee can recover that. It's only 20 seconds or something.
He might be able to.
It's only 20
Turn 1 we
seconds.
go.
Yeah, exactly.
There'll be a discussion about how to bring themselves back in.
It's still possible.
Anakoya suggesting maybe Lee Russell's the man for the job to get this 20 seconds down, but the thing about that is that they can't just put Lee Russell in the car right now. Hoyer's got to do another stint, but maybe a suggestion there from Hoyer to get Lee Russell ready for the next stint, which will be in around about an hour's time. That's the message from Hoyer. He wants Lee Russell in the car, but he's still got to complete that stint first and foremost. So, having a look at the top 3 so far. I've just noticed this has flown under the radar. Team Adrenaline are back into the pits in the garage, and they're not currently clocking up any laps whatsoever. Sebastian Deville was in the car last. Has anybody else slipped under my radar? Very possibly. We know about Zakharov, who's under the garage, which is only 5 GTE cars running in this race at the moment. GT3 trying to... I clicked the wrong button, as I would. We know about Christopher Kianek, so no one else has slipped under my radar just yet. And Andre Koya, well, the job for him right now is to close that gap as much as possible before they throw Lee Russell in. That's going to be the target. That's going to be the aim. Dawid Mroczek still leading in the DPIs in the Burst Esports Simplexity car. Moradness eStars in second with Nello Pastorino at the wheel. SEM9 Axle in third with Nakib Aslan in the number 11. Looking at the LMP2s, Inigo Anton in the SEM9 Axle car leads in the number 21 in LMP2. Second place, number 15, Deuces Motorsport Club at the wheel, Robert Palm. And the 164 Satellite Racing, Liam Rance behind the wheel, currently rounding off the top three in LMP2. For the top three in GTE, Wojtek Polesny in the 74 Deuces Motorsports Club, here leading the field. Second place in GTE, the DIS Sim Racing Lab, number 45 Porsche. And third place, the 27 Aston Martin, the MCM Motorsport, as driven by Alvaro Incausti. And GT3, it's Azatec Sim Sports by Volante Racing. They lead the way with Daniel Krasnov behind the wheel. The Audi of the 404 Glam Racing car is in second place, and third place is Pedro Delgado in the CKR Brazilian-laden McLaren. There is Sebastian Deville parked up in the Team Adrenaline car, and they have been there for at least 3 minutes for sure, but hard to tell what's gone wrong there. They will start dropping down the order. Hopefully they will return, put in more laps around the circuit, and there they are in the top right hand corner. Hopefully we do see them come back into the race. There's still points up for grabs at the very least, but Hoyer has, well, he's made a start at closing down this gap to himself and Daniel Krasnov. It's just over 19 seconds at the moment, and well, for Hoyer being negative of himself, saying no, Lee Russell's the man for the job, well, he's doing a good job so far. He's trying to cut down, scythe the gap down as much as possible. See what he can do to try and make up that time through the final corner.
I can confirm that Sebastian Deville has put his VR headset back on, and he's coming back out. So the 33 Adrenaline car's returning to circuit.
So maybe a disconnect. Very welcome back, Mr. Chris Butson. I thought you were going to wait till the ad break, but you've jumped in.
I can't keep away from you for any longer, Mr. McGinley. That's what the truth is.
Stop it.
So I get the beautiful face and dulcet tones of the McGinley, and also the alluring tones of production Mr. Montcalm in the background as well. So I'm flirting outrageously with everybody, and I make no apology for doing so. Look at that weather. The rain's flirting with us again.
The great thing is, Chris, is you see right over to the west side of Florida. The entirety west of Florida is under rain.
It's getting a bit busy over there.
It's getting a bit busy. And I don't know, some drivers might be celebrating and other drivers might not be. I mean, we were talking to Tom earlier from Burst Esports Good as Sunglasses, saying that they ran a little bit of a compromised setup, hoping for the rain, and that rain just hasn't really arrived. We had some rain at the top of the last hour, Mr. Buxton. It rained for about 5 minutes and then has dried up since, so that's all you've missed there. No panic from any teams to get themselves onto any wet weather tyres, no panic whatsoever. Everyone kept their cool. Another thing you've missed, Mr. Buxton, is that CKR were leading, and Pedro Delgado had quite the lap and a bit. He lost his rear wing coming through Sunset Corner, final corner, lost the back end, went rearwards into the wall, lost his rear wing, didn't realise he'd lost his rear wing until he was spinning out of control in towards the pit lane entrance, and then had to complete a full lap with no rear wing, spinning about 3 times, tangling with the SEM9 Axle LMP2 machine as well, for good measure. Whilst doing that, finally made it back, repaired the rear wing. They're back in third place, about a lap and a half down on the leader. Quite astonishing 2 laps. The replay just kept going on and on and on.
That's quite an adventure. They were leading comparatively comfortably when I left them a couple of hours ago, so oh dear. But still 4 hours to go though. Still
4 hours to go, and at the top of each order, Well, it's been very, very difficult to say and tell which way is going which. I mean, Koya still haven't got to the bottom of why they need to pit in twice, but they are now reeling that gap down. It's just over 18 seconds now as we ride on board. But I believe this is Naki Baslan making his way up towards the first corner, about 3 seconds away from Nello Pastorino. And there was a great battle, well, between Pastorino and Vagapov, but 5 minutes ago. And Vagapov had to come into the pits for a scheduled stop, which took that battle away from us. Meanwhile, Naki Baslan is closing fast on Nello Pastorino. And whilst they're trying to close in Naki Baslan, we're going to go to a commercial break. When we come back, we'll see how Naki Baslan gets on and how close he can get to the Moradness eStars car. Don't go away.
The 2022 Endurance E-Racing World Championship brought to you in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriots, Aztec Sim Sports, Global Flicks, Motorvision.tv, Stengolm, ESTV, and Film Vault Limited.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
Just think about the fun things you do online. Diving into movies you love. Shopping. Enjoying free Wi-Fi with your morning coffee. Wait, who's that guy? Meet the Digital Snooper. It can be your internet service provider peeking at what you do online, or a cyber criminal on a mission to snitch your credit card info, or a hacker at the next table trying to steal your sensitive data. Uh-oh. But don't worry. NordVPN keeps all these snoopers away. It makes your internet activity private, protects you from accessing dangerous websites, and lets you enjoy your favorite content securely, even while away from home. The best part? It's just a click. Yep, internet security is that easy.
You can get NordVPN today at a 60% discount by visiting gtr24h.org/VPN.